Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the user interface for Solidworks. It is really interesting. If you are aware of Microsoft Office, it is more or less very similar. The icons are very intuitive and it should be fairly straightforward. Now when you're learning a software, I want you to be able to multitask. You're in charge of your own learning now, so you can pause and play through this video when you think this is a bit of information and you want to take a moment to digest it. Okay, so I'm going to take you over to my screen where I'll show you lots of things. Instinctively you would want to jump in, however, take it steady, be patient and pace yourself through this learning. Okay, as I said, you are in control of this. You can pause and play this video whenever you like, and you can come back to this to watch it at a later time. What is important is for you to take on instructions and take some time to digest them so that you're learning at the same time. I will show you a number of things. Sometimes some of those things you may want to just make a note of. Sometimes you just want to remember the keyword. It's not necessary you get 100% out of this. We all learn differently. So as I said, since we are filming this, you can come back to this video whenever you like. Good luck. See you on the other side. Welcome back. I'm going to click ahead onto Apps Anywhere icon. If you have Apps Anywhere installed, you shall see that icon on the desktop. If you haven't, it's not really a problem. Please watch my previous video and make yourself familiar with Apps Anywhere. If you are not a UWE student or staff, I ask you to go ahead and download Solidworks and click on the icon. I'm going to look up Solidworks here. I'm going to launch that. Might take a couple of moments. This is what Solidworks will look like every single time it opens. What I prefer to do is probably go back to this page here. All I've done is close that welcome window. Let's have a look. It looks really gray. This is 2019 version. And if you're accessing through Apps Anywhere, you shall have the same version. If you are using a future version, 2020 or so on, the interface might look slightly different, obviously. Okay, here, as I said before, SolidWorks is a Windows-based software, so most of the icons designed within SolidWorks look very similar to some of the Windows icons we are familiar with. For example, I'll click this button here if I wanted to create a new file. I can click this icon here if I wanted to open an existing file which is saved on your computer. I can click the floppy disk, if you know what that means, to save the file. Print, my favorite button, undo, Control Z, very forgiving actually. This is your select icon, traffic lights for rebuild. We'll talk about that eventually. We have the properties icon here and we have the options. You can go in through options and you can control the way SolidWorks behaves and functions, and you can personalize it that particular way. I'm going to go ahead and open a blank document. I'm going to say new file. Every time you do that, SolidWorks will give you three choices. Which way do you want to go? A new part file, a new assembly file, or a new drawing file? I want you to click into the part file. If you have some parts ready-made on your computer, which you have previously designed, that you wish to assemble, put together, you got to go into this particular environment. And if you want to create 2D drawings from the parts which are available on your computer, you got to go into drawing environment. For the sake of today's lesson, I'm going to go into part. If your screen doesn't look like this, you may see this, which is okay. These are just presets saved onto your computer. If you want to come out of that, you can always go novice and select yourself part and click OK. This will take a couple of moments to load up SolidWorks, and once it does, it will look like this. Once again, a lot more gray space. I'm not selling this really well. Right, in the part environment, we'll see the main menu or the toolbar here, which bobs in and out like this. So every time I bring my cursor here, it will try and show those options. Otherwise, it will go away. What I'm going to do is click that pin symbol, so it just stays on permanently. Here we have a very Windows-like system where we have all the options which probably you're all familiar with. file, edit, view, insert, etc. If you're looking for some tools, they're all hiding in here. If you have multiple windows open, you can do all the standard cascading and aligning windows through here. And you got some help where you can look at some standard out of the box SolidWorks tutorials through there. Following that, you have the home symbol there. New file, open, save, print, as we saw on the previous screen. This bar here, it's called the command manager. This command manager is obviously in context. It will change depending on which interface you're working on. So this is very specific to part environment. I know that because I'm in part. This is my auto-generated file name here. SolidWorks, I decided to call it part 1, which is very reasonable. I can see I'm editing part that shows that here. And I'm also very clearly editing part because it says so right there near the clock. Okay. Some of the other things you want to look at whilst you're here are the units. I prefer to use MMGS as my standard unit system. If you're not here, you can obviously go into that little chevron and you can swap the unit to your preferred system. All of my tutorials will be in millimeters, grams, second. And this is probably the first thing I check every time I open a new file. In probably my other video, I'll show you how to save this as a template. These menus here, you can customize. This is actually a very clever bit of design. These are all layered on top of each other because you don't need to see all of them at the same time. So they're all layered in quite nicely and they're layered in a logical manner. For example, if you wanted to create some standard parts, all the extrude features, all the revolve, the cut, all of those features are sitting here. All the part editing ones, the basic ones are sitting onto this particular menu, followed on by sketch, where you draw a cross section to be able to extrude out. Then you can investigate the part you have created by a number of operations. We'll talk about these eventually. And we got tons and tons of stuff that we may or may not even use. Okay. What I tend to do is, in order to make SolidWorks a bit lightweight and quite responsive, I right click on this. Now, believe me, back in the day, it took me 45 minutes to find out how to do this. And the answer was just right click. So for example, I don't want to look at all of these menus here. I'm going to go, I don't want to look at that. Can you send that away, please? SolidWorks add in. I don't want that. And I can let go of some of these things, which probably is making my interface slightly cluttered, and also it will increase the response time from the machine. Command Manager, I said, this is your heads up toolbar or heads up view bar. This gives you access to a tons of different choices in terms of viewing your part in a different light, different line pattern, whether you want to see it as all the edges removed as a shaded object, all the edges, or just lines only, or see-through lines, etc. And there are tons and tons of these, which you are more than welcome to click through as long as you remember what you're clicking at. You also have a sectional view here, and we have the view orientation one. We'll look into details in a minute. So this is called the command bar, followed by your heads up bar. On the left hand side, this is my favorite space. This is called Feature Manager Tree. The reason it's called tree, because it will eventually, once you start building items here, you will start to see entries onto the left hand side, and the tree will grow longer and longer as you add in commands to the part. Now, this is also obviously very chronological, so it is basically like an events diary. Everything you have done, it will make a note of that. It'll give you a little indicator saying Tushar has done this, Tushar has done that, and so on and so forth. And you can read your part as if this is a storyline, and so you know how someone else has designed it, or you know how you modeled it back in the day if you're looking back on your design. This feature manager tree turns into properties manager depending on which function you are on. So the minute you are into one of these functions, that will automatically change into a properties manager, and more on that later. Bear in mind, this is the most important place in SolidWorks, and it's only about 20% of your screen. This right here, the great big gray space, that is your graphics area. So anything you design, anything you program on the left hand side will generate a 3D part, a 3D model, a geometry, which will place itself quite nicely in this space here. And then you can look at it different different views and you can appreciate the work you have done. Following on, we have the task pane here with tons and tons of other options. You have some SolidWorks forums you can straight away ask questions and get answers to. You have the product database management system there. You can choose appearances, scenes, and decals. Some standard, some you can customize. You can open files from there. This is your library, and this is back into the home page of the resources. Okay. On to the bottom, you will also have some tabs. This is very much like Microsoft Excel. We're not going to go into any of those, but have a look around. Feel free to click through it. Just familiarize yourself with what you're looking at. Okay. So that's all about the user interface within SolidWorks. Now this is where it's really handy to have someone like myself who is as old as a dinosaur and knows a lot about SolidWorks. For example, if you by mistake do this and you think, oh my god, what's going on? You lost your feature tree, etc. You don't need to worry. All you got to do is click on that dot again. It'll bring back that menu. Believe me, accidentally, you're going to click on lots of things unintentionally and you think, right, you made some damage to these things. I don't think you have. You can always undo that. Sometimes you will also do this. You can drag the toolbar in, not all the time. For example, this. I couldn't drag that, but I sent it away. Because probably I dragged and chucked it in the bin or whatever, really. And if you find yourself in a situation like this, you can reset it all by going into View, Workspace, Default, and it will bring it all back together. Next up, I'm going to show you a few more things in detail now. SolidWorks is a parametric modeler. What that really means is it relies on planes and surfaces to draw anything at all to start with. If you're starting out scratch, obviously you're looking at a blank canvas here and there aren't any surfaces or walls or any floor or ceiling you can draw on. For that purpose, if you were to head over to the feature tree and move your cursor over these names here, what will happen is SolidWorks will try and help out by previewing you what you're about to click or what you're about to commit to. I can select that and my plane becomes visible. This is my front plane. It shows itself. If I were to click in the graphics area, it goes away, obviously, because I have literally just selected that and I'll let it go. I can do the same. Top plane, this is my floor plane. And this is the right hand side plane. So all the three planes are shown here. If I want something to stay on permanently, now this is the master tip number 2. I can click onto that and I can hit the eye symbol here. This is the most often used option within SolidWorks. So this eye symbol will toggle something from visible to hide. So I'm going to go make it visible. And if I were to click in the graphics area, it will stay on. Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this now. I'm going to go make top plane visible. Ah, look at that. Right plane visible. And now I can see all of those three planes being visible. I can go back and I can undo that by clicking the plane icon and go into hide. I can hide those again. And if I wanted to do all of that in one go, I can select the first one, holding down Shift on the keyboard, I can select the last, and this will select everything from the first to the last and it will show all. And that will do that quite nicely. Now, as I said before, these planes are used for you to sketch. Anything you draw will end up on either of these three planes, and that will be the base, that will be the seed sketch for your model to come. When you're using any CAD software, the biggest hurdle is to learn or to know how to maneuver your way around the CAD software. Now, SolidWorks is probably the best because it offers you so much variety in terms of controlling the model and looking at it from different orientation. After all, you're trying to use a 3D software to be able to see your work, appreciate your work from different directions. Okay, So there are a few things you can do. You can, I'm going to show you a ton of those things now. You can make a note of these things and probably remember the ones that you really, really like or feels quite natural to you. So for example, I'm not going to touch my mouse just yet. We'll look at that later on. I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So this is when I'm just using my left hand side key. I'm trying to see what happens to the model. Imagine there's a model sitting in the middle. It will rotate our model quite nicely and we're back to normal now. I can go right hand side arrow and it turns it the other way. This is one of those illusion things that if you look at it long enough, you forget, is it going clockwise or anti-clockwise? Your brain starts to play tricks on you. And I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Anyway, I can then go up using the up arrow. Ooh, so it's gonna roll that way nicely. And I can use the other arrow. And that looks quite nice too. Right, so I have, without having to know too much about it, I can use the arrow keys to be able to rotate things and make them all dance around really. Right, let's see what happens with the combination keys. So what happens when I use control and arrow keys? So I'm going to hold down control from my keyboard and I'm going to use the right hand arrow. Right, so it shifts left or right. Okay, so these are the arrow keys. That's very nice. Control up arrow will shift it down. Very nice. And then position it back into the screen. Right. I wonder what happens when I hold on to the shift key and the arrow keys. So holding down shift. Oh, really nice. So holding down shift and the arrow keys will rotate the model quite nicely. It actually looks really, really smooth. And tell you what, this command has a memory as well. So I can hold down shift and I can probably hit a bunch of these arrows and I can let go and I can watch it do a little dance. Look at this, shift, arrow keys, hands free. And it's doing a little dance just to show me what I have made. Beautiful. You can hold down Alt key, that is ALT, which is next to your spacebar, and you can make it roll. So left and right, up and down doesn't work on this. And that's pretty funky. I must say my favorite is the shift and the arrow keys one because it's just really, really smooth. I like it. Also, your numbers on your keyboard, the main numbers, I can use control and I can use the number pad and make it fit a certain standard display style. So for example, control 1 brings me the front view. Control 2 is the back view. Control 3 is the left hand side view. Control 4 is the right hand side view. Control 5, it's the top view. Very nice. We need to use this really, really often. So control 5, I'm going to remember that. Control 6 is probably the bottom view, obviously, and control 7 is the isometric view, most frequently used view in any CAD software. At the same time, you can use your mouse to click onto the heads up toolbar and you can get it to show you a certain view. So you can say, show me the front view, and that'll latch itself quite nicely to the front view. I can go in there and I can say, show me the top view. Now there is a bit of a learning in here for you. If you're looking at these for the first time, and if you do not know how an orthographic drawing is done, this is a masterclass in that. In the middle, you have the front view. This is what happens with British Standards Drawing and all the other standards which are on this planet. The icon on the left-hand side will show you the left-hand side view. So I'm going to go left. The icon on the right-hand side will show you the right-hand side view. That little icon on top will show you top view. That little icon on the bottom will show you that. You get the rhythm. And then I can go and say, show us the isometric, the standard view. Now, if you think you're impressed already, you have more to come. For the next bit of demonstration, I'm going to use the mouse. Now, I believe that you cannot use SolidWorks if you have a laptop and only a touchpad. There are tons and tons of functionality which is actually based on your mouse and the way you use it. So I'm going to show you the main function of this mouse now. So what we're looking at here is a standard 3-button mouse. I bought this mouse on Amazon. It's pretty good. It's been really, really good. The battery lasts really long. And I'm going to put a link for this mouse in the description of this video. The reason it's called 3-button mouse because we have the main buttons. So this is your normal click and this is your right hand click. We use both of these very, very often. There is also a middle mouse button here, which is a scroll button. So you can do a scroll. You can scroll forward or scroll back, and you can customize what effect it has on Solidworks. You can also click onto the middle button, which not many of us know, but there is a secret click here. So you can click onto the wheel and it clicks quite nicely. Okay. Now on this particular mouse, I can adjust the speed of my cursor by pressing the CPI button. And if I'm browsing, I can use the forward and backward, so forward page and back page using those two shortcuts. So this has been really, really handy. As I said, I'll put the link to this particular mouse from Amazon into the description of this video. Now using the 3-button mouse, I can use the scroll wheel here, and this is going to be one of the most frequently used buttons. I can roll forward and that pushes my object away. Look at that. And I can zoom in. I can move the cursor to where I would like to zoom in. This will take some getting used to, but once you do have it, it's one of those things that you will never forget. So rolling the mouse forward or rolling the mouse back will actually zoom in and zoom out for the model. Now, this is another tip for you. For example, let's just say you zoomed out way too much and you got no idea where you are, or maybe you zoomed in and then you lost your bearings like I am now. I don't know where I am in space. I'm lost. I can hit F on the keyboard. So that's F on the keyboard, and that fits everything in. F for fit. Remember that. F for fit, and that'll fit everything in quite nicely. So I can actually quite confidently, without worrying too much about things, I can get lost again. There we go. F on the keyboard brings it back in. Nicely done. Using the scroll wheel here, get a feel for where the cursor position needs to be and what you can do with the scroll wheel. Okay, now I need to bring in the big guns. Your mouse, which is a 3-button mouse, it has to be a 3-button mouse. It will have a secret weapon hidden within it. So to be able to switch it on, I want you to do this. Go into Customize. Once you're in there, I want you to go into Mouse Gestures. This is one of the tabs in there. Okay. I can see there are lots of things happening on the screen now. You want to make sure Enable Mouse Gesture button is switched on, and you want to have it on probably 8 gestures. That is pretty good. I like that. 8 gestures. What this really means is you are hiding these gestures onto the mouse now. You're telling SolidWorks to be able to save all of these commands onto your separate mouse gestures. So for example, these are the options you will get when you are in the part environment. These are the ones for sketching, assembly, drawing, etc. Once again, this is worth remembering. Mouse gestures is an in-context menu. So depending on which environment you're working on, you will be presented with different options. Okay. So just to summarize, I want you to switch on, enable mouse gestures and go to 8 gestures. And this is the best thing within SolidWorks. I'm going to click OK. See what happens now. I'm going to press and hold my right click. And if I move my cursor a little bit, it brings out that little pie chart which we looked at earlier. And then if I were to go forward or go up, it brings me the top plane. Pressing down the right click, go onto the right hand side, it brings me the right hand view. Press down on the cursor again, right click, go onto the left hand side view, bottom view, front view, and your standard view here. Now, the minute you get used to this, I want you to take a moment to practice this particular skill. This will happen so quickly that your computer won't even bother showing you the pie chart because you're doing this, you got used to this and you're getting really, really quick at it. Believe me, this is one of the best things about SolidWorks, which I've been using over the years, and this never gets old. This is the best thing within SolidWorks interface, and this saves me a ton of time. There is no worrying about arrow keys on the keyboard. There is no worrying about combination keys, etc. All I do is this. I use the middle mouse button to zoom in and zoom out. I can also use the mouse keys to orient myself to any particular given view, which is really, really handy. And then I can go there for my isometric view, and I can do a free drag. This is the one I was meaning to tell you about. So press and hold the middle mouse button, and if I were to drag, this gives you a free drag, and you can look at it from different directions, different possible ways. Okay, so those are the 3 things I want you to remember. Actually 4 things. Number 1, zoom in, zoom out using the roller button on your mouse. Mouse gestures, which are these, which you need to switch on from the customize menu. You're using your middle mouse button. You can free drag to rotate this. And if you were to if you don't really know where you are in space, you can bring yourself back and you can fit it all in on screen by hitting the F on the keyboard. I hope you enjoyed this.